Oh,
Hello, ladies and
well,
gentlemen. Welcome back to Just Because Wrestling. I think I'm finally
I,
starting to get the hang of this.
I'll never get used to that voice coming into our headsets. Well, you don't have it. Well, like my headset here,
No, I hear it. I hear it.
Oh, it comes through the screen, is it?
Yeah, it comes through the screen as well. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you've the luxury of just sitting back and like
I have headphones. That's the thing. I have headphones, and I probably should.
I've this contraption there next to me that helps soundboard the entire podcast. You just get to sit. You don't even have a mic. You're just sitting here.
I have headphones. The thing is, I have headphones, and they have a mic on them. But like every time I wear them, you always complain that it's really loud. So I don't know what's wrong with them, unless I have the volume.
Those sound like you're fucking talking to a megaphone. Like, you might as well be screaming.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So like, at least with like Skype, I know in our last episode that will be going out next week, we ragged on Skype for a bit, but like, it was kind of like at least they gave you a countdown before they started recording, so you could time it. Here it just goes, yeah, we're recording now, yeah.
Yeah, off you go. Yeah, but Skype, there was just way too many. It was so slow downloading off it and everything.
It's just
we could do an entire show about the behind the scenes of this podcast.
Yeah.
But
it's just
yeah. Yeah. So for people who are listening, we had slight change of schedules this week. We intended, as we teased on last week's episode, to have LJ Cleary, 1/3 of More Than Hype, on. He did come on. That'll be two. We literally are just off recording with him.
Yeah.
So it was a great conversation. Looking forward for everyone to hear it. But we are holding off. It was meant to release this Friday, but Vince McMahon decided I'm going to fuck up everyone's week.
I'm going to fuck up Jack and Billy's plan specifically, and everyone else is just a byproduct.
Yeah. Vince McMahon just looked and said, yeah, I know Jack's starting a new job this week, and I know he's busy, so I'm just going to fuck his week up even more. So he went away and fired a bunch of people. And so we decided, we made a judgment call yesterday once the releases came in. We talked to LJ Cleary about it before we recorded with him today as well, and decided next week you'll hear that interview. Gives us time also to organize future guests. So we look forward to having that and having these 2 weeks to kind of map out our guests for the next coming summer, I suppose. The outdoor summer, as our beloved Taoiseach Micheál Martin dubbed it, even though he's closing off all the outdoor facilities now.
And even though they're threatening another lockdown as well, even though they were shocked when the weather was nice and people went outside, the absolute fucking lunacy of it.
After they say we want people to meet outdoors, it's safer outdoors, we're going to have an outdoor summer. People need to be thinking outdoor summers. And then the weather was nice, and naturally people went outdoors.
We're like, wait a minute, no. Slow down there again. Slow down. Yeah. Wait, no, when we said outdoor, we mentioned like groups of 3, not like this madness that you're talking about.
See, yeah, it's again, that could be another podcast where I just
we're government. We try very hard not to get political.
But so so it's been a kind of an interesting week. As I said, we're trying.
Interesting is putting it lightly. We had kind of, yesterday was a very kind of, what would be the word? It kind of sent shockwaves through wrestling there. We all remember last year, of course, Black Wednesday, where WWE just released a whole host of guys, and it's kind of become, people get released all the time, but it's usually just, 1 or 2 people, or, whatever, like it happens kind of sporadically throughout the year, but it seems to be a new trend. Well, I think it's something that WWE always did, but like it's just become more and more, and the fact that we're in a pandemic as well, and kind of people are getting fired during a time of kind of financial insecurity. But like, yeah, WWE are doing, I guess, spring cleaning and, clearing out the roster. But this particular crop of names that were released, they released, was it 6 people in total? Six, I think. 6 people in total, 6 wrestlers yesterday. And, it was reported.
Sorry, I didn't mean this Zoom social cue thing.
No, I was just saying, like, it was kind of being reported earlier in the day by the likes of Sean Ross Sapp and stuff, just that, like, releases were on the horizon. Actually, and it was just kind of, like, when you hear that, like, you kind of, in your head, you kind of go, oh, it'll probably be this person and this, like the lower tiered people on the card, people.
And that's something I know you say that, and I think everyone kind of does it, but I feel bad doing that, and it's a natural thing.
Yeah.
When you hear releases, you go in your mind, okay, well, who don't they use? Who's been on the fringes for a while? You start to think in your head, or prepare yourself in your head for, okay, who's the possible names here we'll see.
Yeah.
And Vince McMahon took that and said, I'm gonna flip this list upside down.
Reverse it. Because
like some of the names on this list. Like, did you have the names on you? So
I suppose we'll just go through the names, we'll just rattle them off there and we'll kind of break them down. So the 6 names that were released were Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, Ruby Riott, Lana, Murphy, and Santana Garrett. Like,
the big one here is Braun.
Braun is obviously the kind of, So Braun and Aleister are kind of the ones that kind of stick out the most. Braun in particular, because he's obviously been, for the last 4 years, a kind of consistent main event player in WWE. He came into the company, he was signed in 2015, I think, made his debut in 2016, and then kind of the Braun Strowman that we kind of came to know as a singles competitor and not a member of the Wyatt family happened in 2017. And like I said, like, he's kind of consistently been either a main event player or in a kind of a marquee feud or match. Because he was basically, he was this generation's kind of go-to big man wrestler. He kind of took over the mantle of the Big Show and assumed that role. Just a dependable big guy who could be face or heel and work just as well, could do these big stunts, these big, set piece, bloody, action features, have a good match, have a good, hoss battle with kind of the bigger guys, be a, dominant heel over like a small underdog as well, if needs be. And he kind of, like, he had loads of like roles and positions, as in, like, places on the card within WWE. And the craziest thing about it is, like, his last match was 2 weeks ago, and it was a WWE Championship match on pay-per-view.
In the main event.
No, it wasn't the main event. It was the Universal title match. The main event.
Yeah, sorry.
Still,
but like one of the main, like a WWE title.
It was it was the second last match. It was a WWE title match, like, as I said, like, and it was a great match as well. It was arguably the match of the night, between himself, Lashley, and Drew McIntyre. But so Braun was kind of the one that I was the most surprised about, because obviously
I think Braun, I'm trying to think back to someone who's been released that shocked more people than Braun. Like, there's people who've been released and you're frustrated, like Aleister Black, for example. And like Samoa Joe was another one where they release him and you're like, oh, they could have done a lot more. But like with Braun, it was different. Braun was that big of a star, and yes, you can argue they could have done more, and they absolutely could have. But like, they never they never positioned a Samoa Joe or an Aleister Black in that position, but we say, oh, they should have. Whereas they did position Braun very high up in the card, like you said, and for it to, like you talk about like marquee matches, like he's given, like he had one of the more marquee matches of WrestleMania only a month and a half ago.
He wrestled a McMahon. He wrestled a McMahon at WrestleMania.
He wrestled a McMahon, and not only that, he got a big moment, and it felt like once the match happened, it felt like because people were dreading that match anyway, but like it felt like, oh, okay, here's the Braun that we want to see, him ripping the cage off, and you're like, okay, like there's more here now. You can go from this, because he did have a bad year, but it was creatively, like it was the creative team had a bad year with him, and how they utilized him. But yeah,
like the closest guy that I can think of that was similar in stature and kind of surprise was Ambrose, but I know that was Ambrose asked for his release, and
that's different. Yeah, like Ambrose asking for his relief. Like Kurt would have been another one, but Kurt was more to do with his drug issues, like his prescription pill issues and stuff, which he, like, I'm not speaking out of turn there, he's gone fully on record and said that was the reason. So and he said it on his podcast, which is a really good podcast, if you wanted to check it out. But like, yeah, like I just don't understand. The only one that I can remember being as shocked for was, remember when they released Big Cass, and he was, and it looked like they were going.
Yeah, he was kind of, when he was in the kind of middle of this big feud with Daniel Bryan, coming off the backs of Bryan's return, like he was like Bryan's first singles feud after return. Yeah, that was an interesting one. But like even at that, like Cass,
he's had his issues as well.
He was but not even that. Like Cass was never world champion. Cass was never in a world title match. Well, he was in one, but it was fatal for it. But like Braun, like last year.
No, you're right. Like Braun is a bigger name and a bigger worldwide. Like Braun was one of their stars. You know what I mean? Like, he was a household name.
Yeah, exactly.
He was on his way to becoming that way. Like,
but like even Trey Miguel, he put up a tweet saying that his nephew's favorite wrestler was Braun Strowman, and that for every occasion he got a Braun Strowman action figure, and like he says, like he hates the prospect now of the next birthday he won't be able to give him a new action figure of Braun.
And that's the thing as well, because obviously they've booked him horribly, but like Braun is one of these people that if you book him right, he appeals to both audiences. He appeals to people like me and you, who've watched it for years, who like, because he when you go back to 2017, 2018, when he was doing the flipping the truck and stuff, it was the first time in WWE were tuning into like Raw and being like, I wonder what it was like. Austin. And I know it's ridiculous to say because he's not Austin, but like every week people were tuning in to watch what's Austin going to do this week. And it got to a stage at something like that where people were like, what's Braun going to do this week? And because he's such a massive dude and he's flipping trucks and all this, he appeals to the younger audience as well.
Yeah.
So like that's very hard to do. It's very hard to get a guy who can appeal to both audiences. Because
definitely. And like the thing with Braun, obviously, like he's not he's not Kurt Angle, he's not Shawn Michaels, he's not having these clinics in the ring. We know that. We expect that. We know that's not going to be the case. But like what Braun is I describe, like the best way I can describe him is a moment maker. Like WWE thrives on these moments and WrestleMania moments and all this stuff. Like Braun was a guy who you could rely on any day of the week to provide that, because he's obviously this larger than life guy, and you see him flipping trucks and ambulances and tearing down the set and whatever, and like obviously it's not real, but like you do get sucked into, and you kind of suspend your disbelief a bit, and because he's this big hulking monster among men, that like he is doing it in a way, like, he's not, like, you're like, like, obviously he can flip the truck, he's Braun Strowman, and he creates those moments that, like you said, people want to tune in every week to see what he does next and see what kind of carnage he can cause next. And like that now, like 2017, 2018, Braun Strowman was obviously like peak Strowman, and kind of like the feud with Roman Reigns was fantastic, and obviously then kind of a lot of people talk about like the kind of nail in the Braun shaped coffin was, the feud with Lesnar, where he lost, and kind of arguably people said they should have pulled the trigger on him, back then when he was white hot.
Which they should have.
Yeah.
They should have. And I've spoke about Brock a lot, and I'm not going to get into it, but it's Braun or Brock. I spoke about it with Small Joe too. Like, there's been a lot of victims of, we have Brock's our champion, and then going, okay, like Brock needs to hold the title till Mania, and then these people get white hot in between, and you can't pull the trigger on them because they're so dead set on Brock holding the belt and not showing up on TV. But like, yeah, like going back, and I was kind of thinking of this recent, like yesterday once he was released. Like one of my favorite matches of recent memory was that fatal four-way at SummerSlam that year, because that was a star-making moment, and that was the night they should have pulled the trigger on him. When he was like, remember there was a spot where he picked up the chair and just fucked it at Roman. Yeah, like stuff like that, because it was just chaos, and it was the first time. And I remember, there's no way, because I remember that SummerSlam very, very distinctly. Number one, because I was at a stag that weekend and I was home that Sunday, but like the stag went into kind of like a rollover. So we came back from Killarney on the Saturday night, went into town on the Sunday, was like drinking pints. I don't know, there was some Premier League games on, stayed and watched that, went home, SummerSlam was on, whatever. But the other thing that I remember distinctly from it is the next morning was when the CEO results were out. So and if anyone who isn't Irish knows that it's basically your application for college the applications for college all get sent out on the one day over here. So you will know whether you've been accepted or not accepted in on that day, so everyone finds out. So I woke up because Braun, like, that match was incredible, and I went to bed, woke up 50 minutes later to check my CEO results because it was out at like 6 a.m. and then I couldn't sleep, and I was like, what do I do? And I just watched the match again 3 hours after watching it previously. I was like, I want to watch this again. And it's the only kind of match that I've done that with in recent memory, where I watch it like live and then I'm like, I need to watch that again right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was Braun. It was because of Braun.
Yeah, I mean, like, like that, like in that time, 2017, 2018, like Braun was the best part of the Raw. Like you said, like he was, like he just did things that no one else could do or no one else could be believable at doing. And yeah, I mean, there was plenty of times there where, you argue in the Fatal 4 match, you can argue for the singles match of Brock at No Mercy as well, that they should have pulled the trigger there as well. And, it looked like for a while there that Braun was never going to win the championship. And then he kind of won it last year, obviously, as just being, a victim of kind of circumstance. Obviously, it was meant to be Goldberg and Roman at WrestleMania, and then Roman pulled out due to
COVID,
immunocompromised, and the pandemic going on. He didn't want to put himself at risk, and then they phoned Braun up, and like, was it the WrestleMania 34 24 documentary where they, Braun tells the story of like how he came to find out that he was going to be facing Goldberg at WrestleMania for the Universal Championship. It's a crazy story, and I recommend you go watch it, because you see the kind of the human side of Braun in that, and you kind of see that he is a big, like, granted he's 6'8" and 300+ pounds, and he's a very intimidating figure, but like he does seem like a genuinely sweet man, and like, you know, he beat Goldberg at WrestleMania last year for the Universal Championship, and now 18 months later he's released, and like I suppose the kind of the reasons for the cuts have been kind of chalking into budget cuts, and if that's the case, you know, all right, you know, I don't want to try. I'm not going to try and justify the releases. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of other ways to save money, but like Braun was on a very large contract. We know that, like, he was on a very hefty contract. He was one of the higher paid guys, and it makes you wonder, like, you know, would they approach him and ask him to take a pay cut, or would they ask him to come back maybe somewhere down the line for less money?
But see, the thing is with that, right? And I know I get what you're saying, because it was something that I mentioned to you yesterday, because we were trying to justify why Braun was one of the ones that was released, and I was like, it must have been something to do with his contract. Like, he must have been on a very high contract or whatever. But, you know, okay, $1 million contract, but for the position he's in, he's definitely is in need, or he definitely deserves that $1 million. Because I'd imagine the amount of merch and stuff he pulled in, especially in his high time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he did, because, like, if you remember, we went to a live show in 2018. Kind of, it was kind of starting to tailor off, but like it was still the height of Braun. And we was kind of like the peak, really, before he kind of went down. But like the amount of people we saw at that show with the Monster Among Men, the black T-shirt with his face on it, and all this, like, he was very, very popular. And, you know, maybe now, probably, like, maybe looking at it, shirt sales, whatever, they could no longer justify paying him that money because he isn't bringing in enough money. But that, like, if I'm Vince or whoever's making those decisions, I'm looking at it from a sense of, okay, obviously this guy was bringing in that money. Why wasn't he? And like the only
I tell you why, it's not that hard. They made him a fucking train, and they tried to market him a train. And
but like the rationale is my creative, and if your creative can and Vince obviously is the fault here, because nothing goes past him without approval. So, like, you know, if they can find a way to stop making money with someone like Braun Strowman, then there is something seriously wrong.
Yeah, like Braun, like, I don't want to say he's a special attraction, because
he is, though.
He is. But like, when I say special attraction wrestling, I'm thinking Brock Lesnar, I'm thinking Triple H, I'm thinking The Rock, you know, legends.
But he could have been that, you know what I mean?
I know, and like it but he was, like, because you weren't, like, the Braun Strowman match was going to be like nothing else on the card, and the thing is, the fact that, like, and we talked about LJ Cleary there, you know, in the last episode, that, you know, I say last episode is not going out till after this episode, but, you know, we talked
in the next episode.
Yeah. In the
next time on Just Because Wrestling.
No, but we talked about how surprising it was, given the fact that he's such a WWE type. Like, he's Vince's type, as in, like, big, strong, muscular man. And like
if you said to someone who was a wrestling fan and could draw me Vince's dream, it would be Braun Strowman. And I just don't get it. I really don't get it. I saw people, you know, you get the shitheads out on Twitter then, you know, being like, you know, like things he said about people on the indies or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, okay, he did. And I'm not defending it. What he said was stupid. It was, you know, a stupid thing to say. But at the same time, I'm not going to be ragging on people when they lose their job. Not unless you're someone that's been involved in like a speaking out movement, or like someone, I don't want to name him, but like the Velveteen Dream.
Yeah.
I'll fucking talk shit about him all day long because, terrible person. But Braun, what he said, yes, was bad. There wasn't anything incriminating.
You know what? The thing
was a bad judgment.
Yeah, what Braun said was incredibly ignorant, and it was spoken, and like, I think the only saving grace that Braun had was that he's never been an indie wrestler, as in like he doesn't know the struggle that the majority of wrestlers go through to get to the heights that he achieved very quickly, based primarily off the way he looked. And he was trained solely by the Performance Center. He's a WWE product 100%. And I think it was just pure ignorance on his part that like he just didn't understand the kind of struggle of the independent scene, because he was there. And look, we were talking about it yesterday as well off camera, like, what does Braun do now? And look, it's easy to go like, oh, AEW or whatever, like, you know what I mean? It's easy to say that, but like, I don't know if Braun will continue wrestling. If I'm honest, I think he's I think he feels like a WWE guy. I think he's he just doesn't feel like he'd fit, like, not that he wouldn't but just that he just doesn't fit in anywhere else. And
I'll put it this way: Braun isn't going to be like working, indies and fucking, like he's not going to be working Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday on local independent shows.
It's not going to be WrestleMania weekend, and he's going to be main eventing Joey Janela spring break, like.
Well, Joey Janela spring break is a bad example because he could be on that card.
Yeah,
but,
fair enough.
Anything's possible with that card, but like I get what you mean. Like, he's not going to be on Super Card of Honor or anything.
Yeah, like I'd be very surprised. And like,
but what I would say is, Braun. For me, I hope Braun keeps wrestling, whether it be he ends up back in WWE at some point or he goes away somewhere. I enjoy watching Braun wrestle, but I think Braun is going to be a special attraction, like you kind of mentioned there earlier. You went a different route about it, but I think even if he is brought in by, like, for hypothetical reasons in AEW, like, I think they should look at what like WWE didn't do with the Big Show, where you don't show him on TV every week. He's a special attraction. He, once a quarter.
Yeah, he's the guy you keep locked up in the back room, who you only release when like times are like when things are super.
They wrestle 4 pay-per-views a year. They should be the cards he's wrestling on.
Yeah,
that's it. Have him on TV, not every week, but like have him, in the lead up to the pay-per-views, doing what Braun does best and just causing mayhem, like just flipping trucks, whatever. I would be interested to see, like, if I am picking, if he doesn't end up going back to WWE, it would be AEW, would be the one I'd pick if he is going to wrestle again. Like I said, he's not going to be wrestling like Super Card of Honor or like Effie's Big Gay Brunch, like, like, he's not going to be wrestling like these kind of indie shows. But like, so the only two there that could really afford him would be AEW and New Japan, and he would be an interesting one for New Japan. But like, okay, you watched the you mentioned the network documentary, the Mania 34 documentary. Do you remember the story about how he was brought into the company?
Where Mark Henry met him at like a strongman competition or something. Yeah.
Where does Mark Henry work now?
AEW, yeah. Yeah, I know. Look, I like, personally, I already told you what I think he might do next. Like I think he might chance Hollywood, and like not like, look, I'm not expecting him to be like The Rock. I'm not expecting him to be John Cena, like, but like as in like he's, because of his size and his build and whatever, like he's grand to play like, you'll stick him in a load of prosthetics and makeup and stuff, make him a bloody monster, or they'll make him a giant, or make him a troll or whatever, like, you know what I mean? Grand for those kind of things. And I think he has that mountain bloody kind of vibe about him, like, you know what I mean, where he can be that guy.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely a role from there somewhere, like, but like Mick Foley put it well yesterday, that like Braun said, and this is the only reason that I know Braun said this, because Mick Foley said it, like I trust Mick, that he said,
Everyone trusts Mick.
everyone trusts Mick. He said that Braun went on record and said that he'd never wrestle for another company. And he, obviously people say things like this in the moment, and then when push comes to shove,
Chris Jericho.
yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So, but like Mick said, like, you know, unless he's set for life at 37, you know, he'll have to weigh up his options. And but like that's the other thing, like he is 37 and he's only been wrestling 5 years, you know,
Yeah.
6. But that, like, needless to say, I reckon people are already contacting him, saying like, you know, what's the story? Yeah, do you want to come down for a chat? Like, do you know what I mean? Or do you want to, you know, do whatever? And I'd be interested to see what kind of contracts he'd be getting offered, because, you know, like we said, he was coming off a fairly big one in WWE.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think if he wrestles again, I think he just ends up back in WWE. I think he might be one of those guys, like you said, comes back potentially for less money. Like we've seen, that's not impossible. We saw it with Drake Maverick last year. You know, if there's kind of large enough outcry, it can happen.
Yeah. Now, to be fair,
I don't know.
the money that Drake Maverick is
No,
on,
I know.
probably pales in comparison. Like,
I know. That's it's kind of apples and oranges with in terms of paychecks, but like, you know, I personally don't think he will wrestle again, unless he really, really wants to. But we know this wasn't like a lifetime dream for him. You know what I mean? And we know, like, his first choice.
I think he'll be coaxed into it. I think there's too much potential for matches with him. Like as soon as he was released, I saw people saying Brian Cage, you know, or like fucking Moose was another one that I saw, and like, or Lance Archer, you know, Miro again. You know, would be interesting to see AEW's take on that. Like, you know, there is matches out there for him. Like,
no doubt.
You know, Cody Rhodes is rubbing his hands at the chance to be able to fight from underneath against this monster. So, like, you know,
Cody would absolutely relish the idea of being the underdog against Braun Strowman.
And if you want to play like the freak show, I don't mean it that way. Like, I say it kind of more of an endearing show, but like endearing term, but like the freak show matches, you could do like him and Orange Cassidy would be cool.
Yeah, him and Marco
Stunt would be another one. Like,
imagine how far you could throw
him. Him and Darby Allin, because you know Darby Allin would kill himself for it.
Yeah.
And if you go over to New Japan, Ishii is one that comes to mind straight away.
Yeah.
Suzuki is another one. You know, there's plenty. Jeff Cobb is another one.
Toriano.
Toriano, yeah. So, you know,
one that'd be good. One, and like literally, I thought of it there just a while ago, just as we were talking, like Braun versus a faction, like Braun versus the Pinnacle, Braun versus the Inner Circle, Braun versus the Elite, like just him barreling through like a bunch of guys, like have like a Dynamite where he just like wrecks, systematically destroys like a faction, like in the ring.
See, the thing is as well, I think there's legs to a Braun and MJF type thing, where MJF is the heel that you want to see Braun get his hands
Yeah,
on. You could do a thing where Braun can never get his hands on him, and then it could lead to like a cage match or something where there's nowhere to run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, but yeah, kind of. I know I've spent a lot of time on Braun, so there's a couple of more people I want to go through. I suppose we'll start. We'll pivot away from Braun and we'll talk more about the kind of the others that have been released. So probably start with the women, and there was two. First one was Ruby Riott. I know
three women.
Three.
Ruby Riott, Lana, and Santana Garrett.
Oh yeah. So there's three. Ruby Riott, I want to talk about. I know I was a fan of her work and stuff, but I know you were particularly a big fan of Ruby Riott. So I'm going to let you have the floor here and air your grievances.
So Ruby Riott, it's a sad one because she was one. Because like, when you look at people in WWE and like they've had like time in NXT and time in the main roster, and usually one of the two, you can be like, oh well, at least they had a good run in NXT, or at least they had a good run like on the main roster. Like, you know, Alexa Bliss didn't have a great run in NXT, but at least she's done fantastic things on the main roster.
Aleister Black is another one, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and like, you know, Elias didn't do well in NXT, but he did well in the main roster, whatever. Like Ruby Riott is one of the rare examples that didn't do much on either, and it's a real shame because, and I don't mean I don't mean she didn't do much, as in like she was just never around. She had plenty of great matches in NXT. She was featured loads, but never really got given the chance to.
Never got the belt,
never got like a big win over someone. Like, she was always kind of someone used to get other people over. She came in originally as a face. It didn't really work. She turned heel, and then it became a lot better. Then obviously came up to the main roster with Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan as the Riot Squad, and that was pretty good. That was probably the peak of her WWE run. Was there the original incarnation of that, the three of them, and it was when WWE had when WWE had a surplus of women's tag teams and thought, oh, we'll bring in women's tag belts, and then, you know, that all dissolved fairly quickly. But yeah, Ruby Riott, she just became that person in WWE who, you know, is really good. You watch her for 5 minutes and you know she's a fantastic wrestler, but for some reason WWE just couldn't click with her. WWE just couldn't figure her out. And, you know, same with Aleister Black and stuff like that. Like, we know that, but like, you know, Ruby, and especially now that like she's been released and people have been kind of talking about her and you know, saying like Heidi Lovelace, you know, when Heidi Lovelace returns to the indies, like, she's someone that everyone is going to be clamoring for a match for, because you know you're going to get the best match possible. Like Cassie Lee, you know, formerly known as Peyton Rice, you know, has already said that she wants to wrestle her like every day for a year or something like that. And
that's the thing. I've seen a lot of people talk good things about a lot of people who've been released. No more than Ruby Riott. Like, there was so many people who spoke yesterday about, like, positively about her and how good she is, and, you know, how great she is to have in a locker room and all that. It'll be an interesting one. I think she screams Impact Wrestling to me, and that's not a knock, because they have one of the no, like, that's not a knock, because usually when I say that person screams Impact Wrestling, it does sound like a knock. It's not a knock, because they do a lot of things, but the one thing they do right is their women's division. So, like, look at Deonna Purrazzo, who was in this position this time last year. You know what I mean? So, and she's had the year of her career, probably one of the best women's runs in the last year. So,
like, I think as well, just as we're, you know, when we're spitballing places for her to go, like, I would love, like, it's kind of weird to say see her go there, because there's not much of a place to go, but basically what I'd like to say is I'd like to see her face Serena Deeb for the NWA title. I think that would be like a fantastic match.
But she could easily end up in Impact Wrestling, and that still be a thing. Like,
Yeah, no, that's definitely that. I think, and like you said, I think she does seem kind of like an impact person. I think she'd do well with the likes of, Jordan Grace and Deanna Perrazzo and who else is there now? Sue Young and Rosemary and all them. Uh,
yeah.
She's like you said there now, like, there was kind of so many people putting out extremely kind words about her and no bad
And
word at all. Like.
Jordan Grace was one of them. She put out that she wrestled her in her first match when she was 17, and Ruby Riot, Heidi Lovelace at the time, was just couldn't have been more professional in teaching her and stuff like that and leading her along when they were in
Yeah.
two different skill levels. So
But
but like,
like when we said there, sorry now to cut you off as well, like, but like when we said there as well, when you hear about there's been releases and you obviously start skimming through people's head, like, oh, who's likely to be to make that list. Like, Ruby is one of those people who unfortunately you kind of go, WWE just never used her and just never used her to the highest extent. Like, the only title match she got that I can remember was against Ronda Rousey on Elimination Chamber, and Ronda beat her in, like, 5 minutes, whatever it was. But I think that was the only single title match she got on the main roster. So yeah, I mean, a great wrestler. You can't not say that she isn't.
She'll be fine as well.
She'll be fine. Like, she'll get plenty of work. But obviously,
because as well, there's there's a lot of stacked wrestling shows out there. Like, they're in the male side where you see all these men being released, and you're like, oh, is there room for them in AEW? There's definitely room for Ruby Riott in AEW.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me if she's being offered a role already, because we've talked enough about their lack of depth in their women's division and stuff along those lines. So like, there you go. And like, speaking of which, is there anything else you want to say on
no.
Before we move on? So we talked about this yesterday, but Lana being released is another one that kind of surprised
It's
me.
an one, like, it's one of those ones where I kind of like, it felt like, obviously when her husband was released there last year, people were expecting her to be not far along after him, like, you know what I mean, and she just wasn't. They decided to keep her on, because she's an extremely popular woman. She's kind of well liked with the crowd and stuff.
And she has a big social media following.
She has a very big social media following as well. But I remember when it was announced that she was released. I remember I actually I felt really bad for her, because Lan, obviously, when she started the company, being Rusev's manager, and she was just a manager, and obviously his real life wife and stuff, but like, she was nothing more than a plot device in most cases. She was never nothing more. And
she wasn't his wife. She wasn't his wife back then, because remember they got engaged and they got heat, brother.
Oh yeah.
Fucking
yeah,
hell.
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah. But no, I mean, like, for the longest time, Lana was just a plot for kind of other people, for just to be that heel manager, to kind of interfere and cause distractions and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then she was a babyface manager, and then she was back to the heel manager, and but then eventually she got the chance to be in the ring, and obviously she wasn't great at the start. She was very, very, very green, and but like, she went away, and you can tell she worked so hard to kind of improve, because like, she obviously, with her husband being gone, her role was kind of up in the air. Like, where does Lana fit into this WWE with no Rusev? And it was, she worked her arse off to be kind of like, to be better and to kind of carve out a role for herself in that women's division. And for a while she did. Like, obviously, like, the feud with Nia Jax and stuff kind of went on for a good chunk of the year, and it seemed like she was going to win the tag titles with Asuka at one point, and then unfortunately she got injured, and I felt so bad for her. I thought it was really kind of unfortunate that she got in, or that she was released, because it looks.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, just because she worked so hard to get better, like, you know.
Yeah, she'll be an interesting one because she is at. I'd imagine she's at a crossroads here, because, as we mentioned, she has a huge following on social media. So with that comes a lot of opportunities outside of wrestling.
Yeah,
You know,
I know
there's
she was doing some acting jobs as well while she was in WWE as well. So
yeah, and there's like she'd have a lot of sponsorships and third party sponsorships that she had to give up when they did that thing of banning them, and now she's available for them again. So maybe because of that and the money she makes off that, the desire to wrestle will wane, considering she was still only kind of starting out in her journey to become, like, I know she's been wrestling a few years, but you know, it takes years and years to get like really, really good at it. Especially for someone, and I do kind of feel bad saying this, but like at the start, you could just tell it didn't come naturally to her.
Yeah.
But credit, like you said, you could tell she worked her arse off for that. Like there's always clips of her in the ring with Brian Kendrick training and all this. She worked very, very hard, and you know, hard work does beat talent. But at the same time, like now that she's gone from WWE and it's not her, it doesn't have to be her job anymore. Is she willing to work at it at the same rate? So, because there will be other opportunities for her, unlike some wrestlers who have been released who only know wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it'll be an interesting one. Obviously, the natural thing is people to be saying, "Well, her husband works for AEW." I said to you yesterday, which is kind of true with AEW, they don't do the female manager to male or husband and wife managers. Again, Cody would be licking his lips for when Brandy pops that baby out and she comes back to have that match.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I bet Cody's already dreaming of that. But like I say, like the thing is, I said to you yesterday as well, like obviously it's natural to kind of to jump to that conclusion. Oh, she'll go to AEW, pair with Miro, and you know, like it makes sense. It's natural. It's like, you know, you don't need to worry about chemistry or anything like that, because they're bloody married. They have all the chemistry that you could ask. But my issue is, like, does Lana or CJ Perry or whoever she's going to be in AEW, does that work with this Miro? You know what I mean? Like this kind of whole, I'm the best man. You know, he just got rid of Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford, kind of like not weighing him down, but like just being like, you know, I'm sick of this kind of nonsense, silly bullshit. Like, you know, I'm here to win. I'm here to win championships and prove how dominant of a wrestler I am. And
well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying pair him with TikTok dancing Lana. I'm saying bring back like the pair that they were when they went into WrestleMania on that.
Yeah,
like,
I know, but like even then, like even that version of Miro, like that version of Rusev, doesn't feel the same. I don't know, like I feel like.
Well, I'm not saying for him to go pledge to Mother Russia. Like,
no, I'm not either. Like, I'm not either. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know if he needs a manager. That's the only thing I'm saying. I don't know if he needs one. I think like this character might work better if his dominance in the ring by itself speaks for itself. Yeah. I don't know.
I really liked that pairing, especially when and you know what? It's wrestling, so who gives a fuck? You know, when she had that Russian accent. Why not bring back that Russian accent? Because that was obviously a crutch for her in terms of she felt more comfortable giving a promo in an accent that wasn't hers. So bring back the Russian accent. If they can take away, if she can turn up on TV in WWE 1 week with a strong Russian accent and the next week having her Tennessee accent, then she can turn back up to AEW with a Russian accent. Like it's wrestling.
Yeah. So like, no, I mean, but the thing is, you'll have the Twitter friends all fucking freaking out.
But you'd have those anyway.
Yeah.
No matter what you do. So, you can't be worrying about them. But I'd be interested to see what happens.
Yeah, she's an interesting one because, more so than Braun, I would feel she's kind of I think she genuinely has a choice here in the sense, like, I mean, obviously, I don't know. I obviously haven't the slightest notion what's being offered to these people, but like I would imagine you know what I mean? It's either going to be one or the other. He's either going to be getting wrestling offers or he's going to be getting, acting offers, and he'll have to pick one of the two. Whereas with Lana, I think she's probably getting both right now. And I'm just guessing, but I'd imagine she's getting like the social media, acting, sponsorship stuff. And on the other hand, she's probably like, Cody or whoever or Kenny or whoever's going to be in charge of signing her is ringing her up right now, being like, it's probably going to be like, why don't you come over and work over here? So yeah, she's an interesting one, especially as well considering the work she's put in. Because that'll probably, I reckon that'll probably play a factor as well. The fact that like she's put so much work into her in-ring ability over the last year and a half. That, like, will she be like, was that just a year and a half of my life wasted now if I don't
I got you.
If I don't try and kind of make a run of this, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying like that now. I'm not saying she's gonna come in and bloody beat Britt Baker, like, you know what I mean? But like, you mentioned the Cody Brandy thing there, like, that would move tickets, like, that would be something that people would pay, like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, Lana's an interesting one. We'll move on there from her. We mentioned Santana Garrett. She was kind of the lowest, or kind of least the least prolific name on the list.
I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I don't know too much about her.
Yeah, I don't really know too much about her either, if I'm honest.
I did see. Now, I don't know if you heard anything, but I saw someone. I saw someone tweet being like, can't, or is like they didn't even give Santana Garrett a chance, and then the same person like quote tweeted being like, "Oh, just read about her. She can go fuck herself."
I don't know. I didn't.
And I was like, okay, maybe she done something. It's not in around, like, it's not out of the ordinary for a wrestler to do something stupid. So I then I went looking and I kind of Googled her and I went on Wikipedia and there was nothing in kind of like personal, because I clicked on personal life because I thought maybe something would come up. Nothing came up about that, and then I either got distracted or lost interest. So I don't know which one. But so I'm not sure what happened there. But
I'll do a quick search myself. But
Google search.
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Like that now. She's had a very.
But while you're doing that, go on.
No, I was just saying, like, Santana Garrett controversy. Who comes up? But she did 3 days ago. Santana Garrett called out over a controversial political post. She does have sometimes a lot of things you can do. She's on a boat for Memorial Day.
Your audio is coming out.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah. I think you were leaning on your mic or something, on your laptop or something.
All right. So she was on a boat for Memorial Day weekend, and she posted a video on her Instagram, and some fan noticed that in the background on the boat there was a fuck Biden flag and other right-wing flags. There was a Blue Lives Matter flag and a Trump flag. But Santana Garrett has since come out and claims that she did not record the video and was phone free all day, and she has since deleted the post. So I don't know.
Do you mean you didn't record the video?
He said, my girlfriend sent me these videos and photos. I was phone free all day long. Also, I don't post my political views, just trying to share Silver Glen with everyone. Apologies to anyone who was offended by the video. So that was her reply.
Well, if she apologized, fair enough. Like, it's her own political thing, and if she apologized, then I wouldn't be going around saying fuck her. Like,
I mean, yeah, and she's claiming that it was. I mean, I don't know what she's trying to claim, that she was phone free and didn't.
Again, it falls into the category of, same with Braun. These people are just after being fired. They're just after losing their job. It's nothing incriminating or nothing. Because when I just said fuck her, I was like, okay, maybe she done something. Maybe it was something really bad. But now, because it's a political thing, and she did apologize for it, for posting or for her political views coming out on Twitter. These same people who are tweeting fuck her, singing Judas in Jacksonville every Wednesday. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's she can have whatever political view she wants, whether that's a popular opinion or not is her own choice.
I feel bad now being bringing that up because she did apologize for it or whatever. So that's all she can do. So we wish her the best. I don't know much about her.
All I know is that she had kind of a very Deonna Purrazzo-esque type WWE career, signed for NXT but didn't do much in NXT. Appeared 1 or 2 times in the main roster as enhancement talents. She appeared in the Royal Rumble there. Was it this year or last year? As just one of the spots.
So she might end up doing well. You never know. Deonna Purrazzo happened to her,
Yeah, well, she had a I think she had a decent enough indie career beforehand. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think she did. Like I said, I don't know much about her, to be honest with you. But yeah, we'll move on from her just because there's not much else to say, really. We'll move on to Murphy, or Buddy Murphy, as he's sometimes known. Yeah, this is another one that sucks, man, because he's a guy. So during the 205 Live era, I guess, when 205 Live was kind of getting regular attention, he was kind of the breakout guy from 205 Live. And, obviously he was former NXT Tag Team Champion, which feels like a million years ago. But, repackaged himself as, the juggernaut of the Cruiserweight division, won the Cruiserweight title. In his home country of Australia, which is obviously a great moment for him. And went on just to have a series of unbelievable matches with guys in the Cruiserweight division and just proved himself probably to be one of the best in-ring guys in WWE today. Well, he was in WWE, one of the best in-ring guys. He was just this explosive, powerful, incredibly fast, mega athlete. You look at him and he's a guy now, the body on him, he looks like an action figure. And
I think bell to bell, he was top 3 in WWE.
Oh yeah,
I think he was that good. I think he was, and you could argue that he was one.
Yeah,
I've never seen a bad Buddy Murphy match. No, never.
And he put on fantastic matches with the likes of Mustafa Ali, with the likes of Drew Gulak, with the likes of
Neville Pack.
Yeah.
And stuff. And even going back to his NXT days in Blake and Murphy.
Yeah.
They had some great matches. People forget a lot. They had great matches with the Vaudevillains.
Vaudevillains, yeah.
They had a few with Revival and the Lucha Dragons. Again.
No, I mean not even just
fantastic wrestlers.
Not even the Cruiserweight guys. When he came up to the main roster and formed that partnership with Seth Rollins as the disciple, and had amazing matches with Rey Mysterio, and then when he came over to SmackDown with Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns, even he had a great match with. He's a fantastic wrestler. He's a guy that is just going to do well, and especially his style will do really well on the independents and stuff.
I tweeted yesterday, I will pay good money to see him wrestle on the Best of the Super Juniors.
Yeah, that's one that a lot of people are calling for him to be in the Best of Super Juniors. I'm just hoping with what's going on in Japan right now with COVID, I'm just hoping that they'll open to people traveling soon and it's not effective
affecting the best of Super Juniors. Yeah, I'm hopeful to see that.
What's interesting as well is that a couple of months ago he did a Q&A on his Instagram, and he was asked who his dream opponent is, and he said Kenny Omega, and Kenny Omega said that he would love to wrestle him, like he singled him out, because both guys have very similar styles. And
you know what? I think that's a match that could happen on Impact. I could see him going to Impact. I think if he goes to AEW right away, I think he'll get lost in the shuffle. Even though we're here saying he's one of the best wrestlers in the world, which he is. I just think they have too many guys at the moment that they are concentrating on pushing, that if he goes in there, he'll just, he'll be wrestling on Elevation and Dark or whatever. And I don't want that for him. He deserves more. So I see him, because there's some great matches for him in Impact as well. Like him and Chris Bay.
Yeah.
Him and Rich Swann, which we've seen in 205 Live, but like here, both people more seasoned.
Yeah.
Would be another great match.
Chris Bay already called him out as well. That's the thing.
Yeah. But Chris Bay, immediately when he was released, well, the first was Kenny. I was like, him and Kenny would tear the house down. But Chris Bay was immediately came to mind. I was like, him and Chris Bay would have a fantastic match. Him and Leo Rush would have a fantastic match.
Yeah. And like, he like him and Will Ospreay as well would be a match. Like
Ospreay.
Yeah, good money. But I, like you say, Impact. I think, when you said best Super Juniors, I think New Japan would be a great fit for him as well.
New Japan, yeah. Like Takahashi, El Desperado. Like you're looking at all, like the list goes on and on. As to like people who he could have a really, really good match with. So all the best to Buddy Murphy.
Yeah, he's gonna do fine. He's one of those guys who you don't need to worry about him. He'll do fine, and I'm sure as soon as the 90 days are up. Do
you remember what his? Do you know what his actual name is, or do you know what his indie name was?
Sure, I can Google it and we can find out quickly enough. But yeah.
Is there anyone else bar Aleister Black we need to talk about? Am I forgetting?
Matt Silva is his indie name.
Matt Silva. There you go. Matt Seidel is another match for him. Matt Seidel would be a great match. The Matt and the S kind of just brought it to my mind. Someone that I'd be very interested in him seeing him wrestle is Mike Bailey, Speedball.
Yeah, because they're two really fast people, and they would just be like a fun match. You'd have to like watch it, like you have to take pre-workout to watch that match. We would have to
watch it in 0.5 speed.
Yeah.
Slow it down. So
yeah,
it's just Aleister
Black. And I wanted to leave Aleister Black to last.
Yeah, I did too.
Because we talked about Braun being like the highest profile name, and he probably is. But Aleister Black is probably the biggest missed opportunity of this group. And I think, I could be wrong, I could be surprised, but I think he'll be the one who benefits the most from this. As in, I think he'll be the guy come the end of the year who like is going to be on top of the wrestling world no matter where he is. And also because Aleister Black was the first person to kind of come out and speak about it, because within an hour of being released, he was on Twitch on Tia Trinidad, his wife, formerly known as Selena Vega, her Twitch stream. He was on there playing Call of Duty and explaining everything, talking about his relationship with Vince and thanking all the fans and all that stuff, and basically being just the most respectful person in the world. He was just being really, really kind of respectful and kind of understanding of the whole thing. And he says obviously his one was quite surprising as well, just because they spent all this time repackaging him and giving him this new gimmick and starting a feud with Big E, it seemed. And then 1 week he's starting a feud, next week he's released. And and he said like he was surprised because of obviously the Dark Father thing when he just started, and they put a lot of work into it, or he put a lot of work into it anyway. And now he's kind of he's not, Aleister Black is dead now, and Tommy End lives. But yeah, I mean, he's one of my favorite wrestlers, and he has been for a very long. When he debuted, like I knew of him as Tommy End in from the Indies, and I saw some of the stuff in Progress towards the end of his.
You would have watched a lot of Progress compared to me.
Yeah,
I didn't. I had heard of Tommy End. I didn't see him until he turned up at that NXT UK show.
Yeah,
remember, as Tommy End.
Yeah.
Who did he wrestle on? That was Devlin.
No, it
was Pac. It was Pac. Yeah, it was Neville. Yeah. That was my first proper introduction. I'd heard a lot about him. When I heard he signed, I was like, oh, I'll check him out. And then I saw him, and I was like, this guy is a star. This guy is
entrance, the look, the move set. It was just
everything about him is so intriguing. Everything about him is so. I wouldn't even say relatable, because obviously, look at me. I'm not. I don't look like I relate to Aleister Black, but like, just something gravitates me to that character, and then you like. I don't want to mention much about it. Then you have Booker T going on saying, he didn't stand out much. What are you on about?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Either you're towing a company line, which you're known to do, or
you just have a vendetta against the guy for some reason.
Or not that. Or you just don't know what wrestling fans want anymore.
Yeah.
Because it has changed from his time.
Yeah.
When he was wrestling, it was a lot of more athletes, or like people who enjoyed sports, enjoyed wrestling. Not everyone, but like people, like it was the majority of wrestling fans were sports fans. Whereas now I'm a massive sports fan. Anyone who knows me, whatever. But I do know a lot of people who are fans of wrestling now aren't fans of sport. We spoke to LJ Cleary earlier. Will come out next week, and we had this brief conversation with him. We were talking about football when he logged on, and he was like, "Oh, I don't," he was like, "I don't really have much interest." You're seeing a lot of these people come in, and back in Booker T's time, it was a lot of sport and stuff, but now more wrestling fans are like comic books, stories, long-term kind of, Dark Knight type characters.
Dramatic.
Yeah. And that's what Aleister Black was. And that's what I think. And that's why, that's why someone like Darby Allin can turn up on AEW and have that instant connection with an audience, even though you can't really explain it.
Like I've said it to you, Darby Allin is my favorite AEW guy, and it's because I don't know what it is about him, but like it's like this. I can live an emo life through him kind of thing, and I can have this like.
But you're exactly what I'm talking about. No, you're a sports fan as well, but you love like comics, you love like the dark type things, like Dark Knight.
I'm wearing a bloody Pennywise hoodie right now,
you know what I mean? Like, you're the prime example of that, and you're saying that Darby Allin is you're one of your favorite wrestlers, and like that's why when people, and I have the utmost respect and admiration for Booker T. He was a fantastic wrestler. He's in fantastic shape for his age. I said at the start of the year, it wouldn't surprise me if we see him back in the ring. Absolutely. But when he's out here saying, he didn't do enough to stand out. When you're very dark and, you're coming out with the smoke and stuff, he doesn't get over. Like, what?
Yeah. I think he needs to have a chat with one Mark Calloway.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's, what do you mean? Like, I don't know.
Like,
either. It's a strange one. I saw, but again, I'm not going to rag. This is about Aleister Black. It's not about, or Tommy End now. It's not about Booker T. But
like I was saying, I mean, like Tommy End or Aleister Black is one of my favorite wrestlers because not only of the character, I love that character stuff I love that kind of dark, almost supernatural, but not fully character.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love his style. I love the martial arts style just because of who I am. He's almost like who I would be as a wrestler, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
and just watching him wrestle, it just it makes me happy to watch him wrestle. You know what I mean? And
Even someone like, sorry, no, I'm just going off the top of my head, but even this is going to be very, very, very indie. But even someone like Cara Noir,
yeah,
look at him, and you don't know what it is about his character.
but
You don't know what it is. It's
like,
attracting you, but it's intriguing.
Yeah, and
that's what Aleister Black was, and is.
And like even you know, he's just so cool. You know what I mean? Like he's just like the coolest fiend. I don't want to talk about it too much, but like, from the feud with Velveteen Dream and like, that whole thing. Like, I mean, obviously in hindsight now that's hard to look at, but like that was an incredible
feud.
That was incredible.
It was.
That match was incredible, and Enjoy Infamy, Velveteen Dream, that whole thing like was just so cool. And then winning the NXT Championship, feud with Johnny Gargano, like that was so fucking good.
That match with Adam Cole at a takeover, it was the unsanctioned match.
Extreme Rules match,
or the Extreme Rules match.
That was
where you did the spot on the double chair or the back-to-back chair. Like again, what an incredible talent. And I obviously would love to have seen him progress more into WWE, and that new character that they had was very intriguing, and it's weird that they call
the mask. Did you see the mask he revealed that he was going to wear?
No.
He had like an entrance mask for like when he was wrestling and stuff, and it was like this skull, but like it looked so cool, and it was just like never got to see that.
And but like also the fan in me is kind of excited because the chances are is he's going to turn up in OTT someday. And
I mean, I hope so. I mean, he was there before, and I'm praying that he'll come back. And like we talked, obviously, like I said, like it's easy to just go AEW for any of these guys, like, you know what I mean? But like, if I am Tony Khan and I can only buy or if I can only sign one of these people,
he's the guy.
It's going to be Tommy End. He just has like we said it for so long that he's going to be impossible to fuck up in the main roster, and he's like, he's so much of a character that like they'll have to push him and all this stuff. That's a mistake that no one should ever make again. Assume that no one is safe. But like
we said the same about Keith Lee, we said the same about Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah, exactly.
The same,
we're saying the same right now about Adam Cole, but now we're praying he never goes up. But he'll
end up in AEW before he ends up in the main roster.
Not a bad shout. But Tommy, what we were saying was true. Like, he is a top player. Like, you know what I mean? He is a top level guy, and I think
absolutely
capitalize that on that as soon as they can. And like, people are already saying like, imagine like him and Darby and Sting like running around brooding. That'd be my absolute dream.
Going around listening or going around with Linkin Park playing behind them, or
just like listening to Pearl Jam all day, just like absolutely loving life, or hating life really. People are putting up graphics like, Tommy End Tommy End is the Dark Order and all this kind of, like, he joins the Dark Order or something.
I saw John Silver tweeted, I don't know if you saw that, he said he said like, we are not going to have another leader, we had the best leader, which is fair enough. I don't see them having. I see Midas one as the leader. But one of the things I kind of said to you yesterday, and it's kind of going back to Braun now, would be if Bray somehow ended up getting out of his contract, you could have him, Braun, and Rowan turn up and feud with the Dark Order over Brody's love. That'd be cool.
It'd be cool. I'd be wondering how willing they would be to do it, like, but it'd be very cool.
I think it'd be cool.
I saw this one as well. I won't keep us too much longer. But there was one, if Braun goes to AEW, you do an Incredible Hulk gimmick where John Silver like goes backstage and comes back out as Braun Strowman, and like,
Yeah, that's true. That's very good.
yeah, that'd be funny.
That's cool. But yeah, listen, we've gone on now for a long time. And yeah, we've recorded 2 now back to back, so we'll probably wrap it up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We'll keep up to date anyway in terms. SmackDown will be an interesting one because what does Big E do now? Does he turn
That's
up?
it. Like that's the bad thing. Like is he just back into the feud with Apollo now? Because I know Apollo's in the feud with Kevin Owens now. So like, does he just jump back into that, or does he?
No idea.
Else? Like, yeah, it's a
no
mess.
idea. But anyway, so that's been us. Follow us at JB Wrestling 1998. Just Because Wrestling on YouTube and Instagram. The first one, the 1998 one, was Twitter. I forgot to mention that. Yeah. So and for any inquiries, just jbwrestling50@gmail.com. There you go. Yeah. Bye.